Hey there, it's Michelle Caruana from Play Cafe Academy and Profitable Play. And first of all, before we get started, apologies for the appearance today. My son is off of school. It's Taylor Swift album release week. It is what it is. But I really wanted to get this video recorded and out to you because it's kind of a part two to my previous YouTube video where I talked about the two key types of revenue that I always recommend indoor playground and play cafe owners focus on. So if you haven't watched that video yet, I'm going to link it above, and I'm also going to link it in the description of this video. So if you haven't seen that video, go back and watch it, or you're going to be feeling a little bit lost here. But the reason I wanted to make this into a kind of two-part series is because I didn't want to muddy the waters at all in that previous video. I really just wanted to convey that very simple message that I recommend, again, focusing on high ticket or big ticket items, which is, anything over like $250 to $300, and recurring revenue. So those are the two key types of revenue that I always recommend, again, indoor playground owners and play cafe owners focus on. Big ticket, recurring. But in that video, I really only talked about memberships and parties. And again, I didn't want to put this in the other video because it would have just been way too much content, way too much information for one video. But I highly recommend going back and watching that because I go through a real life example of business A, who focuses on big ticket and recurring revenue, and then business B, who focuses on open play and one-off classes. And I really give a crystal clear picture about not only what the revenue goals will look like for each business and how they're going to have to get there and how much work is going to need to go into that. I also talk about the lives of each business owner A and business owner B. And something I wanted to also say is that that comes from experience. So not just my own experience, but I've worked with hundreds, if not thousands, of indoor playground and play cafe owners in the last 7 years. I've seen a ton of businesses like A, tons of businesses like B. I've worked with so many owners that fall into both categories, and it's pretty much the same every single time. They can pretty much be categorized into one of those two buckets. And pretty consistently, everything I said in that previous video is true. Again, as I said, there is exceptions to every rule. But again, in my experience, that video is absolutely going to ring true in practice in real life. So go back and watch it before you watch this video. But again, in this video, I wanted to talk about some other ideas for big ticket and recurring revenue. Because again, I talked about parties for big ticket and memberships, as in open play memberships for recurring revenue, but those are not the only options. I just mentioned those as examples because those are by far the most common. But I have my little handy dandy notepad ready, and I listed all of the ideas I could think of just off the top of my head for both recurring and big ticket to really get those wheels turning. Because what I didn't want from the previous video is anyone to feel really pigeonholed. And I wanted to really open your minds to the possibilities of potential revenue streams for your business, especially if you're looking to open in an area that is very saturated, that has a lot of competition. This is a video that I created just for you because, again, hopefully it will give you some new ideas. And I have seen these all be done before, and I'm going to give you some examples to check out after this video. Okay, so let's talk about recurring first. And again, I'm just reading from my notes so I don't miss anything. This is my new lavender phone case for, again, the Taylor Swift album. If you didn't know, I'm a huge fan. But okay, so we talked about open play memberships. So I'm not even going to mention that because we talked about it in the last video, but that is an option for a recurring form of revenue. And again, we talked about why it's so important to focus on recurring revenue. I have 10 plus videos about that on this channel, so I'm not going to bore you with that again. But you could also do something like a subscription box, a sensory bin, a party or event kit. So on this channel, actually, I think it was on my other channel, so I'll link to that video as well. But I interviewed Allison Carter from Allison Carter Celebrates, and she launched a subscription box that helps parents celebrate little holidays and events and special moments. So she mails them, activities, things they can do together, memories they can make together, mementos that they can create as a family. And that's her subscription box. And while she didn't have a brick and mortar location, she did have another online business for digital printables. And she added this recurring revenue, and it's worked out really well for her. So I'm going to link to my interview with Allison because it's a great example of recurring revenue. Alicia from Gentle Hands in Tallahassee, Florida, also has a subscription box membership. And a lot of indoor playground owners are really leaning into either the physical product side or the digital product side of subscriptions. So that brings me to my next option, which is a digital membership. Now, you guys know how much I love digital memberships. I obviously have my own, which is Playmaker Society for indoor playground owners. But there are all different types of monthly memberships that are digital that you can launch as a supplement to your indoor playground. So, for example, Gloria from Stories of Play, I again interviewed her on my other YouTube channel, so I will link to that. But she launched a subscription for parents that wanted to really engage in purposeful play with their children. And she was a former preschool teacher. So she had like a consulting business and she was just a stay at home mom. And she launched this digital subscription business. And now she has thousands of members that pay her $25 a month just to get her digital downloads and access to her coaching. So she has built a multi six-figure business just from this digital subscription. And I know so many of you going into this business are former teachers or speech pathologists or occupational therapists. And you guys have resources and knowledge and skills that the parents in your community can benefit from outside of your physical location. So I'm going to be talking a lot more about digital memberships coming up. But again, I'm going to link to Gloria's video in the description of this video. So check that out. But digital memberships are scalable. It's a way for you to reach people outside of even your physical location. So you can serve your current customers better, but also reach new customers and really scale your business to the sky in a way that normally local businesses just can't quite do because you operate within a physical limit. But digital subscriptions really break you outside of that mold. All right. The next thing I wanted to mention is class subscriptions. So, for example, my two sons do swimming lessons every single Friday. It's a semi-private lesson, so it's just the two of them, and it's a subscription. We go every single Friday, and it's not unlimited. It's not, anything like that, but it's just recurring. It's continual until I cancel. And I absolutely love that because when we sign up for a 12-week session, it always happens where we can't make, 2 or 3 because we're really busy and my husband travels. So I love the idea of just having the same class every single Friday or every single whatever day you want to have it, and just having people pay and continue to pay until they decide to cancel. And that's a really great way to limit the amount of work you have to do to fill up those classes because you're not starting from scratch every single week or every single month to fill up that class. You're asking people to commit, and you can give them a success path. So, for example, for my Playmaker Society, we have a success path, a measuring stick for people to measure their progress so they can see, even though, they're paying monthly on a continual basis, they are making progress, they are moving forward. So that's a great way to really help people grasp the value of that class that is recurring. Because with the session, it's a little bit easier. You can say, this is where you start, this is where you end. But with something that's recurring without an end date, you really have to find a way to provide some sort of measuring stick. So again, this is something that I teach inside Playmaker Society. All that information is linked. All right, the next thing that I wanted to mention is meetups or drop-off services. So for a couple years, every single Friday, we did a drop-off service. And it was from I think it was 6 to 9. Parents would drop their kids off. They would do a date night. It was for 3 hours, and they would just pay again every single month. Now that I think of it, I think it was actually twice monthly, but they paid a monthly fee and it just recurred, and they could count on it. They could schedule their date nights well in advance. So they really appreciated that. And it again allowed us to have that recurring revenue that we could rely on every single month without having to reach new customers, without having to worry about making new sales. It was just guaranteed revenue every single month. And sure, we might need to replace 1 or 2 customers that canceled, but replacing 1 or 2 customers is much easier than, again, having to start from scratch and sell 30 tickets every single time you do a drop off or something like that. A subscription or recurring model is so much easier. You can also do co-working. So a lot of indoor playgrounds will do co-working memberships. So they can utilize a certain number of hours per week, or they can access the space at certain hours of the week. And again, it's just a recurring membership that they invest in so that they can plan their work schedule, so that they can have guaranteed working hours. So again, there's a little caveat that your space really needs to be designed for co-working, which is again something that I teach. But it's if you have the space and if you have the setup and if you have the staff equipped to handle co-working, allowing customers to buy into a monthly fee, very similar to like a co-working office space, again, allows them to have the peace of mind knowing that they have somewhere to go outside of their home to take those calls, to get that work done, to meet those deadlines. And having that to rely on is a win-win for both you and them. You can also do something like a coffee club. So you can have people pay a certain amount of money monthly and get a certain number of coffees added to their membership card or added to a reloadable card or something like that. I've seen a lot of indoor playgrounds try this. I haven't seen any really reach a high level of success, but it's something that a lot of us are currently working on. And it's something that's really interesting. So I hope this continues to evolve and progress in the new year. But think about allowing some sort of either, again, it doesn't have to be like they take the coffee home, like a subscription box or something like that. But it could be, again, that they pay a set amount. And this could be open to only your members, it could be open to anyone. But just, again, allowing people to just pay one monthly fee and get either an extra discount or an unlimited amount or something like that when they visit. Again, it's just another way to take advantage of the recurring nature of revenue because it's so freeing and so much easier to rely on than having to make constant one-off sales in your business. And again, if you want to see a real life numbers example, go back and watch my previous video, which is linked. All right, so now I wanted to talk about some additional ideas for big ticket items because birthday parties are not the only big ticket or expensive thing that indoor playgrounds can sell. So some other ideas for big ticket items that can give you a big boost in revenue are packs of classes or camps. So if a recurring model isn't quite right for you, you can instead sell packs of classes. So you're asking people to make a little bit deeper, a little bit bigger of a commitment than just a one-off class. But again, it gives you that guaranteed revenue. It takes a lot of the pressure and a lot of the workload off of you to book every single one of those classes every single time. And again, it's going to allow you to spend less time marketing, spend less money advertising, and it's going to give you so much time and energy to work on other areas of your business. So selling classes and camps and anything like that, or play sessions or co-working sessions. Again, if you can't make recurring work, recurring here is the ideal. But if you can't make it work, sell packs of 10 or 20 so that, again, people are committing. So again, win-win for both situations. The next thing that I wanted to give you an idea for is session-long discovery schools or classes. So I talked about why I prefer, again, the recurring model, but you can also sell 12 weeks of classes and ask people to commit to the entire session. So again, you're collecting the revenue up front. It's going to give that person a much bigger reason to show up every single class. So instead of selling one-off classes, I like this a lot better. Again, so it doesn't just have to be a pack of 12 that they can use anytime throughout the year. You can also do like a limited 12-week session. So that's how those two differ a little bit. You can also sell yearly memberships and offer them a little bit of a discount. So this is technically recurring, but it is also big ticket. So I wanted to mention it because a lot of indoor playgrounds will offer year-long memberships, but they won't really make them very attractive. They won't provide enough of an incentive for people to buy them. And I wanted to mention this, especially this time of year, because year-long memberships are a huge holiday sale opportunity. You're going to get a much bigger boost in revenue if you really incentivize people to purchase the year-long memberships than if you were to just incentivize them to purchase your monthly memberships. Because grandparents, aunts, uncles, people out of state, a lot of people are going to be looking for those bigger items that aren't necessarily toys, right? A lot of people want to purchase experiences. So what I would recommend to make that offer extra attractive is to give a couple months free. So for example, for my Playmaker Society membership, if you sign up for an annual membership, it's actually only the price of 12 months. So if you were to sign up for the monthly version, again, you pay $47 a month for 12 months. If you sign up for the yearly version, you save 2 months off of that. So 47 times 2. I'm bad at math, but you do the math. But that is usually enough of an incentive to get people to sign up for the annual. However, to make it even more attractive, I throw in an extra bonus consulting call with me. So that again, it just adds extra value and extra monetary value on top of it for them. And it doesn't cost me a lot. It just costs me an hour of my time, which is very valuable. But in this case, my membership right now is my number one priority. So I really want to keep the best, most brightest, most successful entrepreneurs in there for as long as possible because it's good for me, it's good for them, and it's good for everybody in the group to have as many successful entrepreneurs in there as possible. So again, win, win, win. But for your membership, you could offer maybe a retail toy because a lot of people want to buy experiences, but they also want to give something physical so that, the baby or toddler or preschooler isn't disappointed because they don't really understand the concept of memberships or gift cards or anything like that yet. So offering a book or a retail item up to a certain value that you can purchase online, again, if they're out of state or if they can't come in for whatever reason, is a great way to, again, further incentivize the purchase of those yearly memberships. So give a little bit of a discount for purchasing yearly, give an extra bonus, whether that's a toy or a book, or whether that's coffee passes or bring a friend passes or something like that. Think about that. And I have an entire training on memberships inside of Playmaker Society if you're a member. So again, this is something that I talk a lot about, but give an extra incentive because it's going to give you a huge boost in sales if you can do it right this holiday season. You can also offer balloon art. So a perfect example of this is Tal at Play Factory. No, I'm sorry, Art Factory and Play Cafe in Virginia. I visited her recently and I was blown away by the amount of balloon garlands, balloon arches, balloon columns, balloon bouquets, balloon marquees that she does that don't even have anything to do with her physical space. Sure, her staff blows them up, assembles, and stores them on space, but she's able to reach a much broader, not just geographical area because people can come and pick them up, but you can also reach a much broader clientele. And balloons, you're able to charge a lot of money for because they're art, they take a long time to assemble, they're very difficult for people to do themselves. So generally the profit margin is very high on balloons. You're able to charge hundreds and hundreds of dollars for some of the more intricate pieces, or even just a simple garland can be $300, $400, $500. And it's something that's, again, very high margin if you have the staff that's skilled to do it. So again, I have tons of tutorials about this inside my membership, but balloon art is a great way to really get an extra revenue source for big ticket items. So really think about balloon art because it's very trendy right now. And Tal sells a ton of balloons. And a lot of people have probably heard about the helium crisis right now, but most of her balloon packages actually don't require any helium. They just require an regular air. So she uses an air compressor machine, which I also have as well here. So it's actually not affected by the helium shortage, which is great. So that's another great idea for a big ticket item. And there are tons of tutorials online on YouTube as well on how to make garlands, arches, columns, again, marquees, anything like that. And she can reach people outside of her normal clientele, as I mentioned. So graduation parties, weddings, anniversaries, anything like that. It's not just people who would be her normal patrons of her indoor playground and play cafe. She can reach a much broader audience with this big ticket revenue stream. You can also do character visits outside of your physical location or inside your physical location. So for example, Christine, I talk about her all the time. A lot of playmakers do this, but she has a lot of character costumes. So she has an add-on for character visits for her birthday party packages. Or I believe you can book a character to visit at their space. I'm not 100% sure on that, but she could do that if she wanted to. And I know a lot of character companies, again, once they invest in these costumes, they want to get as much use out of them as possible. So you can make your characters available to rent for their at-home party. And again, that allows you to reach a broader audience of people who might not want to have their party at a venue, but do want to utilize your services. So, character visits and things like that definitely go for several $100s, especially if you add a story time or a sing along or a craft or something like that as part of the character experience. So, if you're investing in character costumes, again, make sure you're leveraging them to their fullest. The next thing I wanted to talk about is mobile soft play, which a lot of indoor playground owners do, and which is something we did a lot of. So again, if somebody didn't want to rent our space for their venue because, they always have their party at their house, or they have a really specific vision, or they wanted to have a pool party, we did mobile events. So we would bring a soft play setup, we would bring decorations, we would bring cake sometimes. It depended on how deluxe they wanted their package to be. But again, that's an example of a high ticket revenue item that not only was outside of our physical space and allowed us to reach new customers, but we could do multiple events at once. Even though our physical location could only do one party at a time because all of our parties were private, this allowed us to do multiple parties at once to really expand and scale our revenue outside of those normal bounds of our physical location. So, mobile soft play is another great example of a high ticket item. You can also look for sponsorships from families, from local businesses. A lot of indoor playgrounds, including my own, we auctioned off our playhouses every single year. And I don't mean we gave away our playhouses. We had a little sign at the front of our playhouse, and we allowed families to sponsor it every year for $400, I believe. I think the first year it was 250, and then every year we increased it. And all we did was we put a little Cricut sign that said, for example, one year it was called Nico's Nook. And it was very inexpensive for us to do. I think the sign cost like $7 to make, but that family was willing to pay hundreds of dollars for it because it was of high sentimental value for them. They brought their friends, they brought their family, they took pictures in front of it all the time. And we kept the sign up for an entire year for that price. So again, you can do that for individuals, you can do that for businesses, you can put logos up on things. In the tour that I just did for the Friendship Fortress in Buffalo, New York, my hometown, she had Delta Sonic, for example, sponsor one of her attractions. And there's Delta Sonic logos everywhere. And they paid her a good amount of money to not only add their logos, but they paid for the entire attraction. So again, it's something that you can do as part of your startup, or you can do it every single year like we did, just as a little extra boost in high ticket revenue. The next thing I want to talk about is using your space for things other than birthday parties. So I just did a podcast episode about how to book more baby showers at your space. You can do corporate events. So for employers that have all parents or mostly parents as employees, ask them to rent your venue out for their next employee appreciation event or holiday party or meetup or something like that. Because a lot of these companies are looking for something different, right? They don't always want to have their meetups or their staff parties at a brewery. Sometimes they want to involve the entire families, especially if that's one of their company values. So start reaching out to these companies who you think might be a good fit and say, hey, did you know that we do private room rentals? Give them the information. And that's just, again, another way to expand your events and get extra big ticket revenue and keep your calendar booked outside of the normal offerings like birthday parties. So think outside the box there. And then the last one I wanted to mention is vendor opportunities. Again, this one is big around the holidays. So I would still consider this big ticket, even though technically it's a couple different transactions in one. And let me explain. And I do have a couple videos about this, so I will link those also below this video. So you guys have a little bit of required watching after this video. But what I would do around the holidays and also around Mother's Day, especially, is I would reach out to a couple local businesses and I would charge them around $100 each for booth space. And I would say between 10 to 12 vendors, again, spending about $100 each on their booth. Some wanted a double booth, some needed smaller booths. So again, $100 is usually like an average, but we would have 10 to 12 vendors. They would pay me each $100. So I'm only responsible for collecting the money from those vendors. So I would still consider this big ticket because it's a lot fewer transactions than if I were to allow people to sell for free and simply charge admission for the people coming to shop. I never recommend charging the shoppers because you want to have them spend their money on the vendors. And that makes the event a lot more attractive to vendors and they're going to be willing to pay you a lot more than the shoppers are going to be willing to pay you because they're going to be making a profit on that investment. So vendor events where you can, again, charge just a few vendors, $100, $200 to occupy your space, and then invite everybody in the community, invite the parents that visit your space, but have them bring their friends and their aunts and their uncles and their mom and their grandma to get all of their holiday shopping done in one space. And I have, again, two videos for holiday vendor events. I have one that talks about adult vendor events and the do's and don'ts and tips and tricks. But I also have a really cool video from Tal at Art Factory and Play Cafe. And every year around the holidays, she actually has a kid maker event. So that one is a little bit different. I wouldn't necessarily consider that one big ticket because it's more of a community event. But that's also a really good idea because everybody coming in bought coffee. A lot of people coming in bought memberships and passes and booked parties and things like that just because it was a reason for them to come in and they had never had a reason to visit previously. So I hope that gave you some extra inspiration for both recurring and big ticket revenue sources outside of the typical open play membership and parties. If you have any questions, as always, feel free to comment on this video or message my Instagram. I would love to hear from you. And as always, I would love to welcome you inside Play Cafe Academy and Playmaker Society. All the videos I mentioned and all that information for my paid programs are below this video. Have a great day, have a good week, and thank you so much for watching.